In the building. Man, that camera up high, boy. I tell you, I need it a little lower. Nah, that's good. It's good. I wish I could share it to Facebook like fast. I wish it was like faster way. Move my tablet out the way real quick. So we're gonna check out luminaries in Enoch chapter 72 through 82 in one Enoch. So y'all can hear about how it's like it connects with daylight savings. Trying to think. Do I want to share this real quick? How would I anyway? Maybe I. Yeah. I'm gonna try to send it to Facebook and see what happens. Facebook. What do? I'm hungry. Wow, it didn't even load. Wow, Facebook is slow. What's my computer? Chromebook. It takes like a minute just to share it. Create posts. I haven't shared anything in my group in a long time on Facebook. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It's so slow. Yeah, it really takes about a minute just to share it. Oh well. All right, let's go. So chapter 72, verse 1. All right. So it says the book of the courses of the luminaries of heaven. I know who I need to share this with too. The the relations of each according to their name, origin, and months, dominion, and seasons, which Uriel, the holy angel who was with me, who was their guide, showed me. And he showed me all their laws, regulations, exactly as they are, and how it is with each of the years of the world and to eternity, until the new creation is accomplished, which endures until eternity. And this is the first law of the luminaries. The luminary, the sun, has its rising in the eastern doors of heaven. And that is true. You can actually study that. And then it says, and it's setting in the western doors. You can see that every day. And I saw 6 doors. Let me make sure I ain't skip nothing. Okay, I don't think so. And I saw 6 doors in which the sun rises, and 6 doors in which the sun sets. And the moon rises, and the and the moon rises and sets in these doors, and the leaders of the stars and those whom they lead, 6 in the east and 6 in the west, and all following each other in accurately corresponding order. There were also many windows to the right and left of these doors. And first, there goes out the great luminary named the sun, and his sphere, orbit, or disk is like the sphere of heaven. And he is quite filled with illuminating and heating fire. The chariot, oh, excuse me, my bad. The chariot on which he ascends, the wind drives, and the sun goes down from heaven and returns through the north in order to reach the east, and is so guided that he comes to the appropriate door and shines in the face of heaven. In this way, he rises in the first month in the great door, which is the fourth, and in the fourth door, which the sun rises in the first month, are 12 windows, from which proceed a flame when they are open in their season. When the sun rises in heaven, he comes out through that fourth door 30 mornings in succession and sets accurately in the fourth door in the west of heaven. And during this period, the day becomes, mm, getting to it already. And during this period, the day becomes daily longer and nights grow shorter to the 13th morning. There's that daylight savings already. And then it says, on that day, the day is longer than the night by a ninth part, and the day amounts exactly to 10 parts, and the night to 8 parts. And the sun rises from that fourth door and sets in the fourth and returns to the fifth door of the east 30 mornings and rises from it and sets in the fifth door. And then the day becomes longer by 2 parts and amounts to 11 parts, and the night becomes shorter and amounts to 7 parts. And it returns to the east and enters into the sixth door and rises and sets in the sixth door 1 and 30 mornings on account of its sign. On that day, the day becomes longer than the night, and the day becomes double the night, and the day becomes 12 parts, and the night is shortened and becomes 6 parts. It's about like what we got now, something like that. I wonder where are we right now? Oh yeah, the year's gonna start over. Oh well. Anyway, let's keep going. And the sun mounts up. Okay, and the sun mounts up, take the day shorter and the night longer. Excuse me, the day shorter and the night longer. I honestly don't know if the night's longer right now or the day is longer. I don't know. It seems like we got more night right now than the day. Let me read this again. It says, and the sun mounts up to make the day shorter and the night longer. And the sun returns to the east and enters into the sixth door and rises from it and sets 30 mornings. And when 30 mornings are accomplished, the day increases by exactly 1 part and becomes 11 parts, and the night 7 parts. And the sun goes out from the sixth door in the west and goes to the east, and rising in the fifth door for 30 mornings, and sets in the west again in the fifth western door. On that day, the day decreases by 2 parts and amounts to 10 parts, and the night 8 parts, or to 8 parts. And the sun goes out from that fifth door and sets in the fifth door of the west and rises in the fourth door for 1 and 30 mornings on account of his sign and sets in the west. On that day, the day becomes equal with the night in length, and the night amounts to 9 parts and the day to 9 parts. Sounds like that's a half a season, no, 2 seasons right there, sounds like. And then it says, and the sun rises from that door and sets in the west and returns to the east and rises 30 mornings in the third door and sets in the west. And okay, now we're in the third door. Okay, so it sets in the west in the third door. And on that day, the night becomes longer than the day, and night and night becomes longer than the night. Is that what it say? Let me read that again. And on that day, the night becomes longer than the day, and night becomes longer than night. Yeah, that's how I said it. And day shorter than day until the 13th morning. Okay. And the night amounts exactly to 10 parts, and the day to 8 parts. And the sun rises from the third door and sets in the third door in the west and returns to the east. And for 40 mornings, my bad, not 40, and for 30 mornings rises in the second door in the east, and in like manner sets in the second door in the west of heaven. Okay, we're in the second door. And on that day, the night amounts to 11 parts, and the day to 7. And the sun rises on that day from that second door and sets in the west of, in the second door, and returns to the east into the first door. Okay, now the first. For 1 and 30 mornings, okay, this is another season, and sets in the first door in the west of heaven. And on that day, the night becomes longer and amounts to the double of the day. And the night amounts to, it says amounts exactly to 12 parts, and the day to 6. Authors note the day is divided into 18 sections of 90 minutes each. Okay. And the sun has traversed, my bad. And the sun has traversed the divisions of its orbit and turns again on those divisions of his orbit and enters that door 30 mornings and sets also in the west opposite to it. And on that night has the night decreased in length by a ninth part. And the night has become 11 parts and the day 7 parts. And the sun has returned and entered into the second door in the east and returns on those his divisions of his orbit for 30 mornings, rising and setting. And on that day, the night decreases in length, and the night amounts to 10 parts, and the day to 8. And on that day, the sun rises from that door and sets in the west, and returns to the east, and rises in the third door for 1 and 30 mornings, and sets in the west of heaven. Trying to get his book. Okay. Verse 32. On that day, night decreases and amounts to 9 parts, and the day to 9 parts, and the night is equal to the day, and the year is exactly as to its day 364. And then it says, and the length of the day and of the night, and the shortness of the day and of the night arise through the course of the sun. These distinctions are separated. So it comes that is, let me read it all together faster. So it comes that its course becomes daily longer and its course nightly shorter. And this is the law, and but they call it daylight savings. Okay, well, got that. Sorry, I just looked up and saw that comment. Cake says, sounds like it's describing the top part of the earth. What about the rest below? Because it's round. Well, I don't know if it answers your question, but I am thirsty. Hold on. Man, I need to put that in the refrigerator. It's kind of warm. Well, it ain't kind of warm. It's getting there. I don't know if it's going to describe it, but we got 9 more chapters. We'll see. All right. So it says, and this is the law and the course of the great luminary, which is named the sun. And he, I'm sorry, and his return as often as he returns 60 times and rises forever and ever. And that which rises is the great luminary, and is so named according to its appearance, according as the Lord commanded. As he rises, so he sets. Okay. As he rises, so he sets, and decreases not, and rests not, but runs day and night, and his light is sevenfold brighter than that of the moon. But in regard to size, they are both equal. And that's true based on the eclipse as well, you can tell. Chapter 73. So it says in verse 1, after this law, I saw another law dealing with the smaller luminary, which is named the moon, and her orbit. I was thinking about something. And her orbit is like the spear of heaven, and her chariot in which she rides is driven by the wind, and light is given to her in measurement. And it's going to be deep. It says, and her rising and setting change every month, and her days are like the days of the sun. And when her light is uniformly, gotta turn the page. I forgot to turn on my other light, and I don't even feel like it. It is what it is. Okay. All right. I'm gonna read this again. And her rising and setting change every month, and her days are like the days of the sun. And when her light is uniformly full, it amounts to to the seventh part of the light of the sun. And then it says, and thus she rises, and her first phase in the east comes out on the 13th morning. And on that day she becomes visible and constitutes for you the first phase of the moon on the 13th day, together with the sun in the door where the sun rises. And the one half of her goes out by a seventh part, and her whole disk is empty, without light, with the exception of 1/7 part of it, and the 14th part of her light. And when she receives 1/7 part of the half of her light amounts to 1/7 part and the half thereof. Let's see. And she sets with the sun, and when she rises, the moon. No, I left the sun out of my bed. And she sets with the sun, and when the sun rises, the moon rises with him, and receives the half of one part of light. And in that night, in the beginning of her morning, in the beginning of the lunar day, the moon sets with the sun, and is invisible that night with the 14 parts and a half, and the half of one of them. And she rises on that day with exactly a seventh part, and comes out and recedes from the sun, from the rising of the sun. And in her remaining days, she becomes bright in the remaining 13 parts. Chapter 74. And I saw another course, a law a law for her, and how according to that law she performs her monthly revolution. And all these Uriel, the holy angel, who is the leader of them all, showed to me, and their positions. And I wrote down their positions as he showed them to me. And I wrote down their months as they were, and the appearance of their lights until 15 days were accomplished. In single, 7 parts, she accomplishes all her light in the east, and in single 7 parts accomplishes all her darkness in the west. And I never caught that part before. And in certain months she alters her settings, and in certain months she pursues her own peculiar she pursues her own peculiar course. Excuse me. In 2 months, the moon sets with the sun, and those two middle doors, the third and the fourth. She goes out for 7 days, and turns about and returns again through the door where the sun rises, and all her light is full. And she recedes from the sun, and in 8 days enters the sixth door from which the sun goes out. Funny cake. Then it says, and when the sun goes out from the fourth door, she goes out 7 days until she goes out from the fifth and turns back again in 7 days into the fourth door and accomplishes all her light. And she recedes and enters into the first door in 8 days. And she returns again in 7 days into the fourth door from which the sun goes out. Thus I saw their positions, how the moons rose and the sun set in those days. And if it did say moons, by the way, with an S, I'm gonna highlight that. I don't know if it meant to say moon, but it said moons. But anyway, verse 10. And if 5 years are added together, the sun has an excess of 30 days. And then it says, and all the days which accrue to it for one of those 5 years when they are full amount to 364 days. And an excess of the sun and of the stars amounts to 6 days. In 5 years, 6 days every year come to 30 days. And the moon falls behind the sun and stars to the number of 30 days. And the sun and the stars bring in all the years exactly, so that they do not advance or delay their position by a single day to eternity, but complete the years with perfect justice in 364 days. In 3 years, there are 1,092 days, and in 5 years, 1,820 days, so that in 8 years, there are 2,912 days. For the moon alone, the days amount in 3 years to 1,062 days, and in 5 years, she falls 50 days behind to the sum of 1,770. There is 5 to be added, 1,062 days. And in 5 years, there are 1,770 days, so that for the moon, the days 6 in 8 years amount to 21,832 days. For 8 years, she falls behind to the amount of 80 days. Okay, so 10 days every year. Yeah, that's right. All the days she falls behind in 8 years are 80. And the year is exactly, I'm sorry, and the year, oh, wait a minute. I just thought about the eclipse based on that. But anyway, and the year is accurately completed in conformity with their world stations and the sins of the sun, which rise from the doors through which the sun rises and sets 30 days. Cake says, what about when Jesus said he doesn't know the time? Well, what about it, Cake? It never says he did know the time. But chapter 75. Hold on. I'm going to turn on this light real quick. Get it a little bit brighter. I was supposed to have it on. Sorry Sorry about that. Chapter 75, verse 1. Chapter 76 is come in again and give you more insight on the moon and some truths that I found. I might have to explain more in that chapter. But before I read, Kate says, this is talking about the time, right? Yeah, it's talking about time, but I think what you were saying, was you talking about the scripture where Jesus said he didn't know the day or hour, like when the final judgment of God occurs, or you was talking about other places where he was talking about time? Because that's the one I thought you was talking about, the end in judgment that he was talking about. But I'm gonna keep reading. Chapter 75, verse 1. It says, and the leaders of the heads of the thousands, it says 10,000s, who are in charge of the whole creation and over all the stars, have also to do with the 4 days of the year, which are not counted in the yearly calendar, being not separated from their office according to the reckoning of the year. And these were in the service on the 4 days, which are not counted in the reckoning of the year. And because of them, men go wrong in them. For those luminaries truly render service to the stations of the world, one in the first door, one in the third door of heaven, one in the fourth door, and one in the sixth door. And the exactness of the year is accomplished through its separate 364 stations. For the sign and the times and the years and the days the angel Uriel showed to me, whom the Lord of glory hath set forever over all the luminaries of heaven, in heaven and in the world, that they should rule on the face of the heaven, and should be seen on the earth, and be leaders for the day via the sun, and the night via the moon, and stars, and all the ministering creatures which make their revolution in all the chariots of heaven. In like manner, 12 doors Uriel showed me, open in open in the sphere disk of the sun's chariot in heaven, through which the rays of the sun break out, and from them is warmth diffused over the earth, when they are open at their appointed seasons. And their openings for the wind and the spirit of dew, that when they are open, stand open in heaven at the ends of the earth. As for the 12 doors in heaven, at the ends of the earth, out of which go, I should make sure I read it right. Yeah, out of which go out the sun, moon, and stars. Okay. That makes sense. I'm just thinking about it because sometimes you don't see them. But anyway, let me keep going. And then it says, and all the works of heaven in the east and in the west, there are many windows open to the left and right of them. And one window at its appointed season produces warmth. Didn't catch that before. Let me highlight this. And one window, okay. And one window at its appointed season produces warmth, corresponding to the doors from which the stars come out, as he has commanded them, and in which they are set. This makes so much sense. Corresponding to their number. And I saw chariots in heaven running in the world above those doors in which the stars that never set. And one is larger than all the rest, and it is that makes its course through the entire world. Chapter 76. Here we go. All right, Kate, let me catch up with you. Uriel sounds nice. Enoch like questioning things a lot. So it's kind of funny sometimes. Yeah. Enoch and Paul were a lot alike with them questions. Um, chapter 76. Oh, and you said, oh yeah, sorry, I think you're right. It's judgment day. Oh, okay, gotcha. Okay, cool, cool. Chapter 76, verse 1. All right, it says, at the ends of the earth. I should have put one Enoch in my title description. People probably don't know which book, but this is one Enoch. Okay, chapter 76. At the ends of the earth, I saw 12 doors open to all quarters of heaven, from which the winds go out and blow over the earth. 3 of them are open on the face of heaven, and 3 in the west, and 3 on the right of heaven, and 3 on the left. And the 3 first are those of the east, and 3 are open of the north, and 3 after those on the left of the south, and 3 of the west. Through 4 of these come winds of blessing and prosperity, peace, and from those 8 come hurtful winds. When they are sent, they bring destruction. Sound like what right now? But anyway, let me keep going. They bring destruction on all the earth and the water on it. And sorry, I'm thinking about the hurricanes, but anyway, and on all who dwell on it, and on everything which is in the water and on the land. Don't it sound like? But anyway, verse 5. And the first wind from those doors, called the east wind, comes out through the first door, which is in the east, inclining towards the south. From it, desolation, drought, heat, and destruction come out. And through the second door in the middle comes what is fitting, and there come rain, and fruitfulness, and prosperity, and dew. And through the third door, which lies toward the north, toward the north, comes cold and drought. And after these comes out winds through 3 doors. Oh, I'm sorry, I skipped ahead of something. It might have been chapter 78 that I was talking about. Yes, chapter 78. Okay, I thought this was a chapter. This ain't the one. Okay, back to verse 7. And after these come out the south winds through 3 doors. Through the first door of them, inclining to the east, comes out a hot wind. And through the middle, okay, I'm just making sure I ain't skipping nothing. And through the middle door, next to it, there comes out fragrant smells, fragrant smells, and dew, and rain, and prosperity, and health. And through the third door, which lies to the west, dew comes out, and also rain, locusts, and desolation. And from the seventh door in the east comes north winds, and dew, rain, locusts, and desolation. And from the center door come health, and rain, and dew, and prosperity. And through the third door in the west come cloud and hoarfrost, and snow and rain, and dew and locusts. And after these came the four. And after these came the 4 west winds through the first door. Adjoining to the north come out dew and hoarfrost, and cold and snow and frost. And from the center door come out dew and rain and prosperity and blessing. It's a lot of doors. Are these all doors? Yeah. Okay. And through the last door, which adjoins the south, come drought and desolation and burning and destruction. And the 12 doors, that was 12? Look, I lost count. It was so many doors. Okay. It says, and the 12 doors of the 4 quarters, okay, of heaven are I'm sorry, are therewith completed, and all their laws, and all their plagues, and all their benefactions, have I shown to you, my son Methuselah. For those who don't know, that was his son, Methuselah. Okay, chapter 77. And first quarter is called the east, because it is the first, and the second the south, because the Most High will descend there. From there will he who is blessed forever descend. And the west quarter is named diminished, because there all the luminaries of the heaven wane and go down. Okay. And the fourth quarter, named the north, is divided into three parts. The first of them is for the dwelling of men, and the second contains seas of water, and the abyss, and the forest, and the rivers, and darkness and clouds. And the third part contains the garden of righteousness. I think that's the Garden of Eden. I don't know. I saw 7 high mountains, higher than all the mountains which are on the earth. And from here comes hoarfrost, and days and and days, seasons and years pass away. I saw 7 rivers. Okay. I saw 7 rivers on the earth, larger than all the rivers. One of them coming from, man, I can't help but think about the rivers that they talk about, the 7 seas and all that. But anyway, I saw 7 rivers on the earth, larger than all the rivers. One of them coming from the west pours its waters into the great sea. And these two come from the north to the sea and pour their waters into the, oh man, let me see if I can pronounce this. Etherian Sea. I've never heard of that. In the east. And the remaining 4 come out on the side to the north to their own sea, 2 of them to the Erith. I gotta say this again. To the Erith. I don't think I'm saying it right. The Eratharan. You know what? We're just gonna call it the EC for right now. Bam. We're just gonna shorten that up. Okay, 2 of them to the EC. Bam. And then it says, and 2 into the Great Sea. We'll shorten that up, make this simple. And some say they discharged themselves there into the desert. I saw 7 great islands in the sea, and in the mainland, 2 in the mainland, and 5 in the great sea. Here we go. Chapter 78. We're finna get to it now. Yeah, it is a lot of doors. It's a lot. I like Enoch noticing things as small as 2. Okay. This is the one that I studied the most, this chapter right here. I was out. This is something you can go out and verify right here. Chapter 78. And the names of the sun are the following. The first, Orjares, and the second, Tomaz. And the moon has 4 names, and I don't remember none of them. That ain't in the scripture, I'm saying that. The first name is Asanja, the second, Ibla, the third, Bines, and the fourth, Ire. These are the 2 great luminaries. Their spears are like the spear disk of the heaven, and the size of the spears of dang on book paperbacks. It wouldn't lay down. I had to hold the page down. My bad. Where was that? These are the 2 great luminaries. Their spears are like the spear disk of heaven, and the size of the spears of both alike. Where we at? 4. In the spear disk of the sun, there are 7 portions of light, which are added to it, more than to the moon. And in fixed measurements, it is transferred until the 7th portion of the sun is exhausted. And they said, and enter the doors of the west, and make their revolution by the north, and come out through the eastern doors of the face of heaven. Excuse me. And when the moon rises, 1/14 part appear in heaven. And on the 14th day, the moon's light becomes full. That is true. And then it says, and 15 parts of light, and 15 parts of light are transferred to her until the 15th day when her light is full. That is true too. And then it says, according to the sign of the year, and she becomes 15 parts, and the moon grows by an additional 14 parts. And as the moon's waning decreases on the first day to 14 parts of her light, on the second to 13 parts of light, on the third to 12, on the fourth to 11, on the fifth to 10, on the sixth to 9, on the seventh to 8, on the eighth to 7, on the ninth to 6, on the 10th to 5th, on the 11th to 4, on the 12th to 3, on the 13th to 2, on the 14th to the half of a 7, and all her remaining light disappears wholly on the 15th. And in certain months, the month has 29 days, and once 28. And Uriel showed me another law when light is transferred to the moon, and on which side it is transferred to her by the sun. That's an interesting way to put it. Let me highlight that. Because it's always the same side. It's always hard. And which side is transferred to her by the sun. Okay, verse 11. During all the period during which the moon is growing in her light, she is transferring it to herself when opposite to the sun. During 14 days, her light is full in heaven. And when she is ablaze throughout, her light is full in heaven. On the first day, she is called the new moon, for on that day the light rises on her. She becomes full moon exactly on the day when the sun sets in the west. And that is true. You can go out and watch that every month. So I'm going to read it again and keep going. It says, she becomes full exactly, well, full moon. It says, she becomes full moon exactly on the day when the sun sets in the west. And from the east, she rises at night. And the moon shines the whole night through until the sun rises over against her, and the moon is seen over against the sun. On the side whence the light of the moon comes out, there again she wanes until all the light vanishes, and all the days of the month are at an end. Now that's true too. You can watch the moon and its phases, and you'll see. Just to give you an example, let's say the moon is increasing in light from the right to the left until it's full. The same way that it grew in light, it's the same way it decreases in light for that month. So let's say it starts from the right when it becomes new moon, and then it becomes full. When it decreases to going invisible, it's going to decrease from the same side. Like it'll go from left to right, and then it'll go invisible. And it changes every month. Let's say the next month it starts from the top and it comes down to the bottom, and it starts from the top and it becomes full. It goes from top to bottom until it becomes full. When it's going to invisibility, it's going to go from the bottom to the top until it becomes invisible. That's how that goes. Let me finish this verse. So it says, on the side whence the light of the moon comes out, there again she wanes until all the light vanishes. And all days of the month are at an end, and her spirit disk is empty, void of light. In 3 months she makes of 30 days, and her time she makes 3 months of 29 days each, and in which she accomplishes her waning in the first period of time, and in the first door for 177 days. And in this time of her going out, she appears in the 3 months, for 3 months, consisting of 30 days each. And she appears for 3 months, consisting of 29 each. By night, she looks like a man for 20. Sorry, this is kind of funny. By night, she looks like a man for 20 days each time. And by day, she appears like heaven. And there is nothing else in her except her light. That's the end of the chapter. So I'm going to explain some of this. Because I was saying some of this is true. I ain't explain it. So some of this I did go out and see. Okay, the transferring of light. So this part, I'm gonna try to explain to it because it was saying that when the moon is opposite the sun, it's transferring light to itself. When it's let's say matter of fact, the sun's gonna rise in a bit. So when the sun rises, it's always on the east, and when it says that when the moon first shows up, I'm gonna just explain it this way. When the moon first shows up, and it's called the new moon, it's always close by the sun, and it'll be the thin crescent moon, and that's the new moon, and it's always gonna be close by the sun. So it's gonna be when the sun is kind of in a set, and then you'll see it, and that's when the sun is transferring light to the moon, and it does it for I think 14 days or for a certain amount until it's full, and then when the moon becomes full, matter of fact, I'm gonna read it before I keep going. So verse 10 and 78 says, and Uriel showed me another law when light is transferred to the moon, on which side it is transferred to her by the sun. Now that is an interesting way of saying it because it's always transferred to her at the same way. For the first time you see the moon, the very first time it becomes visible is always transferred the same way. It's always kind of like a horizontal thin crescent new moon is always the same. I wish I can pull up a new moon on the internet, but y'all know what it look like. And it's always kind of close by the sun on that day. It's like the sun will be going down and it'll be getting kind of dark, and you'll see the new moon kind of on the east, Anyway, and then it says in 11, during all the period during which the moon is growing in her light, she is transferring it to herself when opposite to the sun. During 14 days, her light is full in heaven. And when she is ablaze throughout, her light is full in heaven. And on the first day, she is called the new moon, for on that day, the light rises on her. That's when the sun rises on her. 13 says she becomes full moon exactly on the day when the sun sets in the west. And that's true. You can look at that every month. So when the sun sets in the west and the first full moon we get, you'll see that the sun is setting in the west. It's going down. It'll be kind of like dark. And then you'll see the moon rising on the east. They're completely spaced apart. And the moon be full. And she'll be ruling the night without the sun. Now, check this out, though. It says she becomes full moon exactly on the day when the sun sets in the west. And from the east, she rises at night. That's true. You can see that every month. And then it says also, and the moon shines the whole night through until the sun rises over against her. And the moon is seen over against the sun. That's true, too. When the sun comes up, the moon will be going down. And the light from the sun will rise on the moon. And the moon won't be as bright anymore. And then what else it says? 14, on the side whence the light of the moon comes out, there again she wanes until, I think I explained it already, until all the light vanishes and all the days of the month are at an end. I don't need to read that one. Okay, 15. What is this talking about? Well, that's some of the stuff I verified. 'Cause I was out there looking at that all the time. Let's go to 79. 79. Okay. So it says, and now, my son Methuselah, I have shown you everything, and the law of all the stars of heaven is completed. And he showed me all the laws of these for every day, and for every season of every rule, and for every year, and for its going out, and for the order prescribed to it every month and week. Excuse me. And the waning of the moon, which takes place in the sixth door, for in it, for in this sixth door her light is accomplished. And after that, there is the beginning of the waning. I forgot to tell y'all one thing. This also describes that when the moon becomes full on the 14th day, it's also full again on the 15th day. So if you ever notice, the moon has more than one full moon. I've seen as many as 3. And people think that the full moon is the new moon. No, that's confusing. But what else? So chapter 79, verse 3, it says, all the waning of the moon, which takes place in the sixth door, for in this sixth door her light is accomplished. And after that, there is the beginning of the waning. And the waning takes place in this first door in its season until 177 days are accomplished, calculated according to weeks, 25 weeks and 2 days. She falls behind the sun and the order of the stars exactly 5 days in the course of one period. Makes sense. And when this place which you have, and when this place which you see has been traversed, such is the picture and sketch of every luminary which Uriel the archangel, who is their leader, showed to me. Chapter 80. And in those days, the angel Uriel answered and said to me, behold, I have shown you everything, Enoch, and I have revealed everything to you that you should see this sun and this moon, and the leaders of the stars of heaven, and all those who turn them, and their tasks and times and departures. And in the days of the sinners, the years shall be shortened, and their seed shall be tardy on their lands and fields. Famines. Okay. And all things on the earth shall alter. Yeah, weather, definitely. Let me keep going. And shall not appear in their time, and the rain shall be kept back, and heaven shall withhold it. And in those times, the fruits of the earth shall be backward, and shall not grow in their time, and the fruits of the trees shall be withheld in their time. And the moon shall alter her customs, and not appear at her time. And in those days the sun shall be seen, and he shall journey in the evening on the extremity of the great chariot in the west, and shall shine more brightly than accords with the order of light. And many rulers of the stars shall transgress their customary order, and these shall alter their orbits and tasks, and not appear at the seasons prescribed to them. I don't remember that part. And the whole order of the stars shall be concealed from the sinners, and the thoughts of those on the earth shall err concerning them. And they shall be altered from all their ways. They shall err and take them to be gods. And evil shall be multiplied on them, and punishment shall come to them, punishment shall come on them. So as to destroy all. Chapter 81. Okay. And he said to me, Enoch, look at these heavenly tablets and read what is written on them and mark every individual fact. And I looked at the heavenly tablets and read everything which was written on it and understood everything and read the book of all the deeds of mankind and of all the children of flesh that shall be on the earth to the end of generations. And I bless the great Lord, the King of glory, forever, and that he has made all the works of the world. And I exalt the Lord because of his patience, and blessed him because of the children of men, sons of Abraham. Um, Author's note added the sons of Abraham. And then I said, blessed is the man who dies in righteousness and goodness, concerning whom there is no book of unrighteousness written, and against whom no day of judgment shall be found. And the seven holy ones brought me and placed me on the earth before the door of my house, and said to me, declare everything to your son Methuselah, and show to all your children that no flesh is righteous in the sight of the Lord, for he is their creator. For no one, for 1 year we will leave you with your son until you give your last commands, that you may teach your children and record it for them and testify to all your children. And in the 2nd year they shall take you from their midst. Let your heart be strong, for the good shall proclaim righteousness to the good. The righteous shall rejoice with the righteous and shall wish well one another. I'm sorry. I read that a little reverse, but it's the same thing. Verse 8, I was thinking about something too. That's why I was like taking so long to read it. But the sinner shall die with the sinners, and the apostate shall go down with the apostate. Apostate, actually, I said apost. Well, I guess I can say it that way. And those who practice righteousness shall die on account of the deeds of men, and be taken away on account of the deeds of the godless. And in those days they finished speaking to me, and I came to my people, blessing the Lord of the world. Last chapter. Okay. 82. And now, my son Methuselah, all these things I am recounting to you and writing down for you. And I have revealed to you everything and given you books concerning all these. So, my son Methuselah, preserve the books from your father's hand and see that you deliver them to the generations of the world. I have given wisdom to you and to your children and those children to come, that they may give it to their children for generations. This wisdom, namely, that passes their understanding, and those who understand, it sure does pass my understanding. And those who understand it shall not sleep, but shall listen, that they may learn this wisdom, and it shall please those that eat thereof better than good food. Blessed are all the righteous. Blessed are all those who walk in the way of righteousness and sin not as the sinners. In the numbering of all their days, in which the sun will traverse heaven, entering into and departing from those doors for 30 days with the heads of thousands of the order of the stars, together with the four which are within the calendar, which divide the four portions of the year, which lead them and enter with them 4 days. Owing to them, men shall be at fault, and not count them in the whole number of days of the year. Men shall be at fault, and not recognize them accurately, for they belong to the calculations of the year, and are truly recorded therein forever. One in the first door, and one in the third, and one in the fourth, and one in the sixth. And the year is completed in 364 days. And the account of it is accurate, And the recorded, did I say that right? And the recorded counting thereof is exact. For the luminaries and months and festivals and years and days has Uriel shown and revealed to me, to whom the Lord of the whole creation of the world have subjected to the host of heaven. And he has power over night and day in heaven, to cause the light to shine on men via the sun, moon, and stars, and and all the powers of heaven, which which revolve in their circular chariots. And these are the orders of the stars which set in their places and in their seasons and festivals and months. I'm so thirsty. I need some water. Chapter 9, verse 9. And these are the names of those who lead them, who watch that they enter at their times, in their orders, in their seasons, in their months, in their periods of dominion, and in their positions. There are four leaders who divide the 4 parts of the year enter first. And after them, the 12 leaders of of the orders who divide the months. And for 360 days, there are heads over thousands who divide the days. And for the 4 days in the calendar, there are the leaders which divide the 4 parts of the year. And these heads over thousands are interspersed between leader and leader, each behind a station. But their leaders make their vision. And these are the names of the leaders who divide the 4 parts of the year which are ordained. Milkael, Hel. Okay, y'all gotta bear with me here. Okay, we got Helimelik and Melijal and Nariel. I'm sorry, not Nariel, but Narel. And the names of those who lead them: Adnarel and Ajasusael and Elomiel. Never heard of that. These three follow the leaders of the orders, and there is one that follows the 3 leaders of the orders, which follow those leaders of stations that divide the 4 parts of the year. In the beginning of the year, Melchijal rises first and rules, who is named, oh boy, who was named Taminai and son, and all the days of his dominion while he bears rule are 91 days. And these are the signs of the days which are to be seen on earth, in the days of his dominion: sweat and heat and calms, and all the trees bear fruit. Oh, spring. Okay. Sound like it anyway. And leaves. I should put a note. Get this. Hold on. Okay. Oh yeah. Yeah, this is definitely spring right here. It sounds like summer coming. Okay, so we'll see. It says sweat and heat and calms, and all the trees bear fruit, and leaves are produced. Yeah, it is definitely spring. And leaves are produced on all the trees, and the harvest of wheat, and the rose flowers, and all the flowers which come out in the field. But the trees of the winter season become withered. Wait a minute. But the trees of the winter season become withered? I don't know. Sound like spring though. Mm. Verse 16, and these are the names of the leaders which are under them: Berkael and Zelebzel, and another who was added ahead of 1,000, called Hilu Jasif, and the days of the dominion of this leader are at end. The next leader after him is Helim Malik, whom one names the shining sun, and all the days of his light are 91 days. And these are the signs of his days on the earth: glowing heat. Yeah, it says glowing. Yeah, glowing heat and dryness. And the trees ripen their fruits and produce all their fruits ripe and ready. And the sheep pair and become pregnant, and all the fruits of the earth are gathered in. Maybe this is spring. And everything that is in the fields and the winepress, these things take place in the days of his dominion. I don't know. That's either summer or spring. We'll see. These are the names and the orders and the leaders of those heads of thousands. Let's see, Gidal, Jal, Kiel, and Hiel, and the name of the head of 1,000, which is added to them, is Asphael, and the days of his dominion are at an end. Chapter 83, that's not in the luminaries. That's going on to some visions, to some good stuff, but that ain't what I'm supposed to be reading today. I wonder. I think it's some missing fragments, because it didn't talk about winter and fall like that. It had a little bit of winter, but it only went over 2 seasons. And then it starts to go into some visions. I don't know. Yeah, because the next chapter is going into some visions, which is good. I like it. But okay, what y'all think? Y'all can let me know in the comments. Have you ever read the Luminaries of Enoch in Enoch 1? That was from chapter 72 through 82. It talked about how the sun was the same size as the moon. You can verify that just by looking at an eclipse. It perfectly eclipses the sun, the moon does, even though people claim the sun is bigger than the moon. Nope. Oh, let's see. It talked about how the sun rises in the east and sets in the west. You see that every day. It talked about the 364-day calendar, which is the most accurate calendar in the world. Not many people use it though. What is this? It talked about the periods of time when the nights are longer than the days. It talks about how sometimes the days are longer than the nights, if I said it properly, which is what they call daylight savings. Yeah, it talked about it a lot. Yeah, after I read this and studied it, I never looked at daylight savings the same. I could never see it for what they, daylight savings is what they call it. But when you read this and understand it and study it a little bit, you just can't go back. You can't look at it the same anymore because you know better. But people don't read this, so yeah, it was a lot of stuff I learned from this. I learned that this was like something that I can actually go out and verify today. Like a lot of this stuff in here is kind of like past tense stuff that happened already. And I can't go out and verify all that. At least I haven't. But this was stuff that you can go out every day and verify. You can do this every day, every month. You see this every day and every month. A lot of it in the luminaries. So it's not like it's just saying stuff you can't verify. You can verify it. Some of this you can verify today. So yeah. This helped me learn what the new moon was. Undeniably. Some people think the new moon is the invisible moon or the full moon. No. And it goes along with the Hebrew calendar versus, well, if you just study calendars, it talks about how the moon falls behind the sun a year, 10 days. And in 8 years, 80 days, which is the calendar that the people use over there in Israel. They use the Hebrew calendar, as they call it, which is going by the moon. And that's why they always off celebrating some of the feast days, because the moon is it's always going to go behind each year. So they add an extra month to the calendar just to get it back on track. So it's like 2 years, and then they fall behind like 20 days. And then the third year, they add a whole extra month to the calendar. So they got 13 months in 1 year to correct it. So it'll, instead of falling behind 30 days, it'll balance out and go back on track. So every other calendar that I know of is inaccurate. The Gregorian calendar we're under, inaccurate. Hebrew calendar that they use, inaccurate. What else is in here? It talked about how the sun transfers light to the moon and all that. There's a lot of stuff I learned in here. Talking about when the moon grows in light, the same way it grew in light, it decreases in light. Like I found that out too. I didn't know that. I didn't even know it was like moon phases. I never got into that until trying to figure out about the new moon and reading this and all that. I didn't even know all that. I didn't research that stuff. I started learning. So, yeah, it's a lot of good stuff in here. Maybe I should just read the whole book of Enoch again one day. It's pretty. Just one Enoch. I ain't reading two. No. I wonder if I ever read the book of Enoch on my YouTube channel before. I don't know. Yeah, how you die. The book. I don't think it's on there. If I did, the book of Enoch. No results pop up. No. I guess I should. Well, I ain't gonna keep this too long because it was just about the luminaries. But I want to catch y'all again. Thanks for joining me. Kate, thanks for our comments. End times, thanks for yours too. Y'all let me know if I should read the rest of the book of Enoch one day. Just the whole thing. Now, I don't know if I can read it all in one video. Probably not. I don't know. It's like 80. It's like 91 chapters. 90. It's about 91. Man, I gotta get them Dead Sea Scrolls. Man, I'm such a nerd. Get out of here. Oh man, I'm off the chain.